Hello.
Hi.
These people have kindly volunteered just to share their opinions. You're not with Britain First, you're...
Yeah, with the Unite Against Fascism counter protest.
So could you give us your views and opinions of why you're here today?
Well, we're here basically today to oppose Britain First. They're a racist hate group made up of like Nazis and Islamophobes and thugs and so on. And so what we want to do is be here today to say, we stand against their racism and their division. And I think, it's important that we're here to oppose them today, because I think historically it's like been shown that when you don't oppose these people, they're allowed to they're able to grow, and it's important that we don't let that happen. Because these people, they feed off sort of the despair that exists in British society or in whatever society they're operating in, and it's important that we say, your politics don't provide, your politics are not a solution for people. Your politics lead to is more hatred and more division. So we're here to stand up to that today.
So would you say? So are you saying when you call them Nazis? What, I don't understand why you call them Nazis, because are they specifically imbibing that kind of ideology, or is it you're just demonising them for things? I don't understand.
They're a split from the British National Party,
right?
Who were, most people didn't have an issue with people describing the BNP as Nazis. Their leader had, I think it was a conviction for, their leader was known to be like a Holocaust denier and things like that. Nick Griffin was a known Holocaust denier. Britain First have, many of the same people as, their members. I mean, and it's worth saying, the man who murdered Joe Cox, the MP last year, shouted Britain First as he was murdering, as he was murdering her. So, they sort of, they sort of want to sort of impose their ideas through like violence and stuff like that, and they do espouse like rhetoric that is kind of similar to what Nazis have come out with. Think about in terms when the Nazis used to say that Jewish people are to blame for all the problems in German society. Well, Britain First say that Muslims are to blame for all the problems in British society, and all this sort of thing. And like as I said, they do have that history of being a split from the BNP. So that's why we would describe them in that way.
And what would you say, from your perspective, is Islamophobia? Like, from your perspective, when you see, they seem to, from what I'm gathering, they seem to be concerned about jihadism and all the rest of it, and thousands on the streets not being arrested for jihadism. But are you saying that's just scaremongering?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just scaremongering. Look, Islamophobia is defined as hatred and racism towards Muslims, and Britain First aren't just concerned about terrorism. They also go into mosques and harass people. I mean, I used to live in East London. They organised Christian patrols to go around harassing local people outside in and around the East London Mosque. I mean, this is not about combating terrorism. This is about whipping up racism and saying and scapegoating and demonising all Muslims. It's not about, and about using terrorism to whip up hatred towards all Muslims. It's not about. I mean, it's not. They say they're just concerned about jihadists. I'm sorry, it's not true.
So you definitely think it's about racism?
Yes.
You definitely.
Yes.
So have you ever read the Koran or anything like that? Have you ever studied it in depth?
No.
Because I've read the Koran, and if you read Surah 9, there's a lot about. There's about 100 and odd verses about jihad in those verses, and they seem to equate Islamic terrorism with the Koran.
Yes.
And what you're saying is, no, that's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
It basically, deep down, this issue is about racism. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And if you look at any religious text, there are things that could be interpreted in a sort of in a violent way. Islam's no exception to that. It's not about they can say, oh, like it says. I mean, there's been things that people have done where they've gone round to people in the street and sort of read them passages from the Bible and told them that it's the Quran, and people are sort of like, well, yeah, that proves that Islam is violent, and they're like, no, that's actually from the Bible. And then they're like, oh, well, I guess it's open to interpretation. So why is it when it's Christianity it's open to interpretation, and you can't tar them all with the same brush, but when it's Islam, people can take out of context verses from the Quran and be like, this represents 1.6 billion Muslims. I mean, there's a double standard, and it is racist.
In the Middle East, there was a strong Christian church in the Middle East. There were millions of Christians, and the church has been decimated now. The Christians have had to flee. Do you ever hear anything about that, or do you ever concern about that? In that was tens of millions of people that freely worshipped in the Middle East, and now they've lost their freedom. And the point what I'm trying to get at is, I understand what you're saying about the way what you're saying, but is it racist to say? Tell me if it is or not. Is it racist to say that in Islamic countries or Islamic places where Islam is strong, that there is not the freedom of speech that we have in our country?
Yes, it is, because it's not true. I mean, if you look at the Middle East and take that as being representative of all Muslim countries, then I think that is a generalisation and it is based on racism. I think the most Muslims in the world do not live in the Middle East. But actually, on the question about the Middle East, it is absolutely true that across the Middle East, in places like Syria before the Civil War, in Palestine and so on, in all these different countries, you had Muslim, Christian, Jewish communities who lived together and got on, and were able to coexist in that way. What changed in the Middle East? What the reason that you have now this like violence and sectarianism and so on is because of Western imperialism. Like in Iraq, the kind of schism there is between Sunni and Shia now did not exist before the invasion in 2003. This is not about these things that are happening in the Middle East. They're not a result of Islam and Islam being violent. They're a result of Western imperialism. And actually, claiming that it's about Islam lets that imperialism off the hook. It's about saying, that it's not Tony Blair and George Bush and those people who are to blame for, saying it lets them off the hook and says they're not to blame. Actually, and tries to claim that it's about people's religion when it's not. It is about that. It is about those wars and that imperialism.
I think you're right in that there's a lot more complexity about imperialism. I will give you that. I don't disagree with that. And we shouldn't let imperialism off the hook. I agree with that. But the question of questions, I think, for these kind of people, from what I'm gathering, is they seem to equate. Correct me if I'm wrong. That you're saying racism, you're saying about Western imperialism, but they seem to equate Islam with a kind of fascism. That's how they seem to equate it.
There is a lot of sort of terrorist groups, such as Daesh, who people tend to sort of focus on. Their interpretation of the Koran is the same interpretation as Britain First, whereas the majority of Muslims will probably have a different interpretation that isn't sort of the violent way of looking at it that these terrorist organisations do have.
Yeah, exactly.
And what would you say your position is politically? Are you left? Are you a left, or is there any if you had to classify yourself? I don't like to classify, but if you could classify yourself, where would you say you're on the political spectrum, or ideology or beliefs? Are you a postmodernist? Do you believe that there's no truth? Do you believe that that we have to be Marxist, or do you believe that we just have to be leftist, or what's your views on that?
I don't believe anyone has to be anything. I personally am a leftist, but to maybe categorise those sort of places saying, oh, I think people have to be leftist.
Yeah.
That's not what I think. I am a leftist. I'm a socialist, and that's just sort of my beliefs. I'm never going to force that on anyone.
Because it's interesting you say that, because when I watch the media, when I watch programs and stuff, I tend to see is Antifa leftist?
Yeah, I guess so.
They seem to be quite aggressive, and I don't understand where they're coming from.
Well, I think what they're about is, fighting against fascism. So they're aggressive when they're fighting fascists. And to be honest,
sorry, do you mind me asking who you're from?
I'm just Jason. I'm a street preacher, and I'm a street preacher.
That's okay.
I'm neutral.
That's fine. No,
and I'm not going to edit it. I'm going to film them.
That's fine.
I'm going to ask somebody over there what they think. I'm not going to edit it.
It's okay.
I'll just put it together.
That's fine.
I'm quite well known. Just Google my name. I'm a preacher in.
Could I ask you further, what is a street preacher?
A street preacher is just standing on the street and preaching, bro.
Well, I assume that by that you're advocating some form of Christianity, are you?
Yeah.
Would you like to classify that? You've asked these women here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Just to clarify.
What shall I call you, if any? Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Right. Other than that, I was just asking you really what what sort of form of Christianity are you advocating?
Well, born again Christianity, like we believe Jesus.
Like evangelical.
Yeah, believe Jesus died and rose again. Yeah. And I'm just here to make a documentary. I'm just filming both sides today, and just seeing what because I've never actually gone over and actually talked to the side against this side. So I wanted to listen to what they had to say today. And I really appreciate your time. My name's Jason Burns. If you want to Google it, you can find the YouTube channel, and it'll just be a documentary. You'll be right in the middle, and there won't be any editing. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. God bless. My name's Jay, and nice to meet you, mate. And you've kindly volunteered to an interview. We're at the Britain First March, and I interviewed a couple of young girls over there. They were saying that Britain First is racist. They were saying that it's Islamophobic, and I was trying to show them that in the Koran, they've never read the Koran, that the Koran has loads of verses about war. And then they were saying that Britain First is anti-Semitic. So could you deal with these issues, what you think, why you're here, and answer these ladies?
Well, it's absolutely nonsense, because the Koran itself is all evil preaching, and people who disbelieve should be dealt with severely, sort of thing, and you know, it's just not right. And the way that the English and British people are treated is not fair, because the Muslim community seem to get a different law than we do. They seem to get away with it. Lots of things, whereas we don't. You know, it's like one rule for one rule for the other. And it's just not right. And if you don't believe in the Quran, and if you don't become a Muslim, you all disbelieve. Well, I can't remember the exact word. Is all disbelievers will be dealt with. It's just wrong.
What about the accusation about anti-Semitism?
No, absolutely rubbish. I'm just here for equality. You know, if people are nice people, it's fine.
So you've no issue with black people. You've no issue with because they've accused you of being racist.
Not at all. Not at all. Not in any way, shape, or form.
I've seen at Tommy Robinson's march. I've seen black people at Tommy Robinson's march. So I don't. Where's that accusations coming from?
Listen, I don't have. They're just making it up. You know, anything that they don't get their own way, we're racist. You know, it's not right.
And then the other thing, that I'm shocked what they say is they're shouting over there that you're Nazis. What's that all about? To me, that's crazy. But what's your answer to that?
It's just them trying to get their own way with everything again, as per usual, and it's not right. I know nice Muslims, I know nice black people, I know nice Chinese people. We're not racist at all. It's rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
So where do you think Britain's going to in the next 20 years, the way things are going?
Oh, you can see it a lot all over Europe and America, and it is turning into a Muslim population. The world will be turning into a Muslim population. And if you don't agree with the Quran, and
you've lost your free speech.
You lost your free speech. You know, you're gonna have to walk around wearing a burqa, and you know, choice. It's wrong. It's terrible. You know. They can walk around wearing what they want to wear, the burqa, this, that and the other. Fine. We tried to walk around not completely covered up. Oh no, can't do that. You know, that's offensive. Taking your dog for a walk's offensive. You know, anything they don't like, it's offensive and racist. It isn't, not at all.
So have you got one last thing to say to the British people? Because last video I made, about 60,000 people watched it. So have you got anything to say to the British people who were judging Britain First and Tommy Robinson? Have you got anything to say to them?
We're not bad people, we just want equality for everybody. And if you're a nasty person, you should be treated like a nasty person. If you're a nice person, you should be treated like a nice person.
Tremendous, I'm sure.
Whatever religion, whatever breed you're, it doesn't matter. You know, black, white, orange, pink, grey, you know, it doesn't matter. Just be a nice person. Don't impose your views on others, because I don't.
Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.